Ladies and gentlemen, it is Birds of a Feather live on A2D Radio. We are all over the internet from our own Real Talk studios. We're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. We're on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Twitch, everything, all over the internet. This is Chucks, your boy. I am back after several weeks of being a dad, newborn dad, and tending to that. But I am happy to be back at the midseason point for the Philadelphia Eagles. To my left, here you go, your boy Pete. What's going on, Pete?
Man, chilling, man. I can't call it at all. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a blessing to be here. I'm grateful. Now, if only we can get Ginger Jesus back and for the second half of the season, because I don't know. It's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers with this kid, man.
Yeah, be very interesting to get into that today. We will have big guy Tom join us in a little bit. As you can see down below, he will come back and he will be joining us today in place of Chrome. Chrome is busy with work and he is going away to Disney World for the 1,000,001.
He just like last week, didn't he?
Yeah, and he's going back. I'm so jealous. I can't hate on him. I'm jealous every time he goes, but he promised me this time he's going to bring back a churro and a turkey leg for me. So yeah, can't complain.
How big are the churros?
They're pretty big. Yeah, they're pretty. I think the ones in Universal are bigger, but I'll take a churro any day of the week.
Oh yeah,
heck yeah! Our sponsors, guys, as usual, our doc Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy LLC. Find them in Burlington, Cherry Hill, Princeton, at specializedphysicaltherapy.com, and MBuck Services Gutter Cleaning for rotted board replacement, deck insulation, and restoration, tree trimming, and other gutter-related services. Call 856-879-5530 or visit them at ambuckservices.com and mention A2D to get 20% off. Our poll question brought to you by Philly Drinkers, phillydrinkers.com, where you can get all your A2D merchandise, including the QB Factory shirt. Use the promo code A2D to get 25% off. Our poll question is, Brandon Graham is the Eagles MVP halfway through the season? Agree or disagree? We will get into a whole recap and review of the whole first half of the season for the Eagles. We'll give our MVP, our most disappointing, stuff like that, surprises. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we expect for the second half of the season, but we'll save a bunch of, a good chunk of that for next week. But we want to talk about the first half of the season, including the game against the Cowboys. How do you feel about that? And then, as usual, we'll also go into discussion about the Week 8 games from around the league. Any news? The trade deadline passed, even though nothing really happened. So are we disappointed in that? Maybe. We'll talk about that. And we might have a new segment towards the end of the show. Might be talking some fantasy football with a special guest. We haven't heard from him in a while. I know, Pete, you haven't met him yet, but we'll see if he's able to come on later and join us, talk some fantasy football, because I know a lot of people, there's a lot of injuries. Not the COVID situation with the Niners and tonight, I know that screwed me in my fantasy league. Like, man. But we will get into that stuff later. But first, the poll question, Brandon Graham, is he the Eagles MVP so far? Pete, what do you say? Would you give it to him or someone else?
Out of all the people who, if you have to give it to someone, I would say you give it to him. Especially over the last 3 or 4 weeks. To be honest with you, no one has really been consistent all year through 8 games with this team. But if we have to give it to someone, it would have to be someone from the defensive line. And who better than BG? Who's really turning into probably you'll probably see the number 55 because they really don't retire numbers unless you're in the Hall of Fame. But definitely a ring of, whatever they call it, the Ring of Fame, the Eagles Hall of Fame, he's definitely in there. If he was to stop playing today, he would be in there. 10 years, biggest play in franchise history with the strip sack on the defensive side. and there's numerous clutch defensive plays. And it sucks because this may be, knock on wood, his first double-digit sack year, and the team may finish with an under 500 record. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I can. But the better question is who would you take it? Who would you give it to but him?
Well, I know a lot of people are arguing for Travis Fulgham because he's
Okay.
been ever since he's come on, which I can get, and you can think of, I can think of some other people. I personally would still give it to BG, and so before I get to the other people, the reason why I would give it to BG is because, like you said, consistency done all year, and he's having an All-Pro season.
Yeah.
How old is he? Like 33, 32, something like that.
Yeah. Maybe 30.
Roughly, I could be off by a little, but I know he's well into his 30s. We know that, and he's he's a well-seasoned veteran. But this could be the best season he's had in his career so far, regardless of how the 32. So regardless of how he's how the team is doing, from his perspective, like just looking at him, you can't keep him out of the Pro Bowl. You can't keep him out of All-Pro recognition as it stands right now. Like things could change, I get that, but you're talking about a guy who's playing at an All-Pro level, playing at the top of his game compared to even anyone in the league. And there are guys like Fulgham, there are guys like you can say Jason Kelce, the only person that's been healthy on the offensive line. And I'd always argue that Kelce has always been an MVP on that O line because of all the different things he's done. So this year is no different. You can also say Darius Slay, the one corner, regardless of what PFF wants to tell you about him being 41st, the 41st ranked cornerback in the league. Don't listen to them. He's been everything that we've expected. He's been consistent, and he's locked down whoever he's been matched up against. So those are the names I'd also consider, but when it comes down to it, there's one player that's playing at an All-Pro level, and that's BG. So I got to give it to BG, and he's led that defensive line. The defensive line as a whole has been great for the Eagles this season. The other parts of the defense, not so much, but the defensive line has really shown up these past several games. So you got to give it to the guy who's leading them right now. And so, I mean, I know that in the comments, Joshua, Shane Carter says Jason Kelce. A lot of other people have, said other guys. When we've asked this question, I know we put up a poll for Eagles fan says Fulgham, the MVP this year. So I get it, and I wouldn't complain. But I think out of everyone, I think it has to be BG. And consider this: a lot of people when BG got his extension, what was it, last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. When he got his extension, because people thought, oh, he's probably not going to be back, and all that. People complain and were like, he doesn't get sacks. He doesn't get sacks.
Right.
Well, now he's getting sacks. What are you going to say? You can't. This guy has consistently always been great at getting pressure and penetration in the backfield as both a pass rusher and a run defender. So stop judging edge guys or defensive line guys on their sack totals, which are that's a very gimmicky way of looking at it and evaluating the defensive line. So BG definitely deserves credit. I will never ever accept any BG hate or slander what I see online or ever. BG is an icon. He's a legend. He's tearing it up this season. I'm glad he is.
And he's a hell of a shit talker too. That's you know what I mean. But like you said it best, with the pressures, you don't always see the numbers. I would say definitely in the last 5 years for BG has saved those first five. I mean, because it was always the Earl Thomas, Brandon Graham comparison, and now up until this point, I think it's okay for fans who were skeptical up until that time, until that strip sack in the Super Bowl, to say, okay, this is really he turned out to be an all right player. I mean, better than all right. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to talk about just another defensive lineman who sometimes even we criticize, we don't see enough and doesn't make enough plays. I mean, Fletcher Cox, this guy right here in the bottom left hand side of your screen, in between, I don't know, it's a couple Phillies down there at the bottom, and Fletcher with the big eyes down there on the A2D background. I mean, they've been playing, they've been balling too. I mean, but it's really a lot of times when it comes to pressure, the guy who gets the pressure, who beats his man, who forces the play or forces the pocket to collapse in one direction, isn't the guy who always ends up with the sack. And
Yeah,
a lot of times
exactly.
that's been Brandon Graham. But now that Brandon Graham's getting a sack, what does that say for Derek Barnett, who's now getting healthy on the other side because he's tearing it up as well, and he's feeding right there right in there to Brandon Graham. So I think as this year goes on, if this defense and the offense can somewhat play somewhat consistently, this defense is going to get better. The defensive line is going to get stronger, and the rotation it's been actually, I would say as a whole, the defensive line has been a surprise. It's been a surprise because I remember we were going into this offseason saying that we needed another defensive end. We needed another defensive end. You know what I mean? And now up to this point, what we thought was a weakness going into the season may ultimately end up being one of the sneaky strengths.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people, and understandably so, you're gonna have people who think that, you know, with BG being older, it's not like you're gonna see him progress and upwards. You're gonna get what he's been, maybe even a slight decline, but he's been a very good surprise in the fact that he's having a career year, like I said, and that's helping him having this career year. Cox, starting to really rev it up and be the Cox that we expect him to be. And then Hargrave, who had a bad start to the year, has started to turn it up past 2 games. Of course, we've had Malik Jackson, who's when he's healthy, he's tearing it up too. And then, I know me and you have been a little critical going into the season about Derek Barnett, but I'll be the first to admit that Derek Barnett is playing very, very well. Everyone on the
Yes.
D line is playing well. This whole it was kind of like a little like debate we had with other people in A2D, but this whole debate of like who's better, Josh Sweat or Derek Barnett. To me, I don't even care. Like you could say they're a wash because both of them are playing very, very well. And
Yeah.
I like the fact that both are rotating and they're both when one comes in for the other, you're not missing a beat.
Yeah.
They're both playing very well, and I love that. I absolutely love that. Love seeing that out of Derek Barnett. Hopefully, him and Sweat can stay healthy all year and use this rotation to stay fresh because we're going to need them definitely. And then Curry, how can I not mention Curry? Curry's been playing well too. When he's been after he came back from injury, he's doing great things.
Yeah,
So
if you really think about it, when you look at the four defensive ends that we have, whether you take right or left out of it, you really have Barnett and Sweat on that side, and then you have BG and Curry. And then in some third down situations, they actually bring Curry in with BG to put him on that side. And then we look at the defensive tackle rotation as well. So you got Fletch, you got Hargrave, you got Malik Jackson, and then you also got Hassan Ridgeway as well, who's coming to give us some credible stats. But the main thing is like, well, why we won the Super Bowl in 17-18 is the defensive line was able to stay fresh with that rotation, and they're getting pressure. And now, I mean, out of this game from Dallas, what we saw this past weekend, Sunday night, wasn't so much the offense that obviously it was the offense itself that looked horrible, but the defense. Yeah, you were going against Benvenucci, but I was really happy and satisfied with the linebacker play that we've been seeing, and the linebacker play has been getting better. Now you got T.J. Edwards back, who's more of that down the hill, down the line type of thumper linebacker, but then you also got Alex Singleton as well. I don't know why I was supposed to say Joe Singleton, but you got Davion Taylor as well trying to get some more snaps and with the raw athleticism, and then you also got Sean Bradley, Duke Riley. So in base, but right now, I mean, to be honest with you, in base you have Singleton and Edwards. I mean, I can't really. It's not what we want, but it's not as bad as what we thought it would be, especially with 47 out there. And hopefully this shows Jim Schwartz that, listen, I mean, while you may like Nate Gary, he may not be the best for this team as far as, because we don't know how long Gary's going to be out. What if they try to put Davion Taylor as far as him in coverage, what they do with Nate Gary? I mean, does Claypool still catch that touchdown in Pittsburgh? Maybe, but are we not looking at Davion Taylor's back? I think he's 53, correct? If I'm not mistaken, is he number 53 or 52 or something like that?
52.
Are you,
Taylor's 52.
yeah. Are you looking at the back of his jersey square on because he's just trailing the play the whole time? It's tough to say, but because listen, we don't. So. Yes, keep Gary out of the middle. We had a couple other comments. We need a new QB coach. You need your QB coach to coach him harder. We definitely know that. Fire Peterson. or Kyle Cap on YouTube. I'm not sure about that. Nate Rosario on also on YouTube. Go Cowboys. No, I hope you're trolling there. Yeah, Robert. The rotation was fresh at 17.
Yeah, and that's what helps. It's more so when it's fresh like that, it helps in the long run later in the year keep these guys fresh and healthy. So that's a good thing. And you touched on the linebackers, and it's good that you mentioned that because in my next article I have coming out either tomorrow or the next few days, I talk about different adjustments and changes that the Eagles should make during the bye week to help them out later in the year. And one of those changes is to keep Gary out of that starting lineup and keep rolling with Singleton and Edwards. And when I talked about them, it's against the. I know it's against the Cowboys, so you got to take it with some level, some level of, what's the phrase? A grain of salt, per se. Like, take that into account. However, they still did their job and they played very well. I think, what was it? Edwards had a bunch of tackles, a forced fumble, and other stuff like that. Together, they're not going to win the game for you, but they might not lose it. They might not be. Then that's if we can get adequate play from our linebackers from them, that might be just enough to get by to help win the division. And they're not the long-term answers. I would still love to see upgrades, but for this year, that they might be the best that we can get right now. And Schwartz, just like you said, he's got to drop his man crush for Gary because Alex Singleton is more disciplined in zone coverage than he is. Like, you can trust Alex Singleton he's not the most athletic guy, but if he has drop zone responsibility in the hook, in the curl flat area or in the hook zones, he's going to be there. And he's not, he's more disciplined than Gary is when it comes to eye discipline and not being faked out by end arounds and stuff like that. He's at least someone that's adequate. And so is TJ Edwards. And TJ Edwards is still he's a stack linebacker that you can't trust in coverage all the time. But again, he's going to get tackles. So when you have linebacker that's going to run downhill and make plays like that can help. So I'm glad to see that against the Cowboys. Do you have any more thoughts about because we're talking about it? Any more thoughts in terms of our thoughts about the Cowboys game? What we saw out of this defense, and then we can transition to the offense.
Out of the defense itself, I mean, even going back, I'll do you one better. Going back to the Giants game the week before, it's 2 plays and it's a 97-yard drive. Oh, dang, he did get big. Gee.
Yeah, he just woke up.
Man,
on his nap. Yeah,
2 months. He's 9 weeks now. 10 weeks.
He is 10 weeks.
10 weeks.
10 weeks coming on 11 weeks. Yeah,
but no, what's up, Grayson? Even going back to the Giants game, it was really 2 plays in the drive, 97-yard drive when Doug should have took the points in the beginning of the fourth quarter. Daniel Jones 80-yard run that the turf monster tripped him, and then the one Sterling Shepard play. But even going to take it to Sunday's game, it is what it is. I mean, I think Schwartz, he's getting better with the game plan. I think players are getting more comfortable, and I just think players are really settling in for whatever reason, being it was a shortened training camp and a shortened preseason. It may just take these players a little bit longer just to get acclimated with the system, to knock that rust off and play better as a whole and play. What I see from the defense is they're playing more as a cohesive unit. There's not a lot of point and there's not a lot of guys out of position anymore. I mean, Nate Gary's Nate Gary. But outside of that, I mean, there's guys in position making tackles, really not giving up the big plays. And trust me, because I was scared. I was like, if DiNucci found it somehow, some way with those skill positions that Dallas had, it could have turned into something a little bit different on Sunday night. But luckily enough, it didn't. It's just I like what I see out of the defense. And to be honest with you, I think out of this second half, I think the NFC East as a whole, minus Dallas, is going to play a lot better.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I don't know why. And right now we're the laughing stock of the league just because of our records. But I mean, look what happened. Look how tough the Giants played the Tampa Bay on Monday night. I
Yeah.
mean, that could have been a trap game, but that makes you think to yourself on Thursday night. It was like, man, we really may got away with one. The Giants could have really easily won that game, and Washington's tough. I mean, and the key about the Giants and Washington is their defenses are tough. Their defenses are tough. They're difficult. The front seven of the Reds football team is definitely tough, and that defensive line for the Giants that we're going to see next Sunday on the 15th at 1:00 in the Meadowlands is no joke. No joke.
Yeah, I think I'm still not with the Giants defense. I don't think they're great, but they are no pushovers. So they've got some players that you have to take account for, and you can't expect like Bradbury is playing better than I expected. So I was wrong about that acquisition, and he's playing very well. So the Giants and Redskins, Washington football team, they do have defenses
Careful.
to account for. Yeah, and they're not. I agree with you. They're going to be tougher because I think they're starting to find their footing. Now, I don't think they're going to be like anything crazy, and I still do expect the Eagles to beat the Giants, but they're not going to be teams you can take lightly or be careless, especially with Washington. Mm-hmm. The fact that they don't have Haskins there, and they have people like laugh at I forget now who they have the guy that got the Carolina. What was it?
Kyle Allen?
There, Kyle Allen. Like, he's no one special. I'm not making him out to be anything. Mm-hmm. But he's not – he hasn't been as bad as Haskins, where Haskins has been really, really bad. So, that simple, just slight boost at the quarterback position for them has helped. And, Antonio Gibson starting to get his footing at the running back position. And, you still got McLaurin. McLaurin's a beast. And so they're going to be formidable. So no one can take them lightly. But against the Cowboys, I think overall, I it's funny because me and the big guy Tom over here who just came in, we had similar statuses and reactions the day after, and it was an ugly win. But you take an ugly win over a pretty loss any day.
Yeah.
You have to there are things we're not happy. There are things they have to work on, and we will get into that definitely. And there are a lot of things to fix and a lot of fingers to point at and to blame on the offensive side of the ball. But it's easier to work and fix and go from somewhere when you won the last two games and you're first in the division right now than it is to say you lost. Now we have a bigger mountain to climb. So there is still you still have to have some sense of optimism that, because we always talk about, well, what do we complain about? They don't play complete games. Whenever we lose, it seems like the offense doesn't help out the defense, or the defense doesn't help out the offense. Well, against the Cowboys, the defense bailed out the offense. Mm-hmm. And so you have to just at least take it as it is and be like, we came out of there with a game, with a win, an ugly win, but a win nonetheless, despite Carson turning the ball over 4 times and playing a horrible game. So if we can just get some stability and some continuity, get some healthy guys in there to stay healthy, you can build off of something like that. And, I still believe that with Wentz, these interceptions, you're not going to convince me that they're not an anomaly. In the past 3 seasons, 7 interceptions in each season, and you're going to tell me, oh, he's Jameis Winston? Get out of here. He's going through a funk, and he's trying to work through it. I still believe that it's going to regress toward the mean. And they will, as long as he keeps working on them, and, Peterson helps him with play calling, and we have healthy guys, those interceptions are going to lessen and lessen as the season goes on.
Yeah, he's not been known for a guy to throw a lot of interceptions. He's been known for a guy that, he'll fumble the football, and that's been a trend of his, and that's been something that hasn't been good. But at the end of the day, he's never been known for a guy to throw a lot of interceptions. So, to me, I agree with you. It's not the real him. And part of it is having consistent guys out there that you trust in spots to be open. And to tie into your poll question, he does trust a guy like Travis Fulgham a lot, and he's not my MVP. That'd be Brandon Graham to the poll question. I mean, that's BG all day. He's made big play after big play for this football team, even though they are 3-4-1. But he's the reason they are in first place in a crappy division, because out of all the guys on the defense, he's made big plays. Like I heard you talk about Malik Jackson, Javon Hargrave. Listen, I look at D tackles, hits on the quarterback, right? Hits on the quarterback. Fletcher Cox, Hargrave, and Malik are unacceptable to the level that they can play. They've had little spurts, but they got to pick it up, because that's a big part of our defense. Darius Plays played good on the corner, but I need big plays too, right? So, I need some interceptions. I love that you're shutting guys down, but your name's Big Play Slay. So I need a couple.
That's fair.
There's a couple. Slot God. I would love for you to have a turnover once in a while. I mean, you call yourself
NRC,
Yeah, and we love you. I mean, I thought it was a great signing, and he's been terrible.
Yeah.
So, guys, I mean, you're right, Chuck. We've been bailed out one way or the other in our 3 wins, and you knew going into Sunday's night, to recap it quick, is that you knew, hey, regardless, I don't care if my offense even comes out of the locker room, my defense has to win me a football game tonight, regardless. And it would be unacceptable if they didn't, and they lived up to it. They shut them down. So you take the win, and you try to just move on and build from things that you can build from. Like, hey, I don't expect to turn the football over 4 times every week, because that's unacceptable, because then Jalen Hurts will be in the game, right? So I expect that, okay, you might fumble one, but I need to have a clean game against New York. I need a clean game, and their defense runs through Jabril Peppers. I mean, that's their best defensive player, in my opinion. So their defense runs through him. That's going to be a tough one, because they're always tough. But this football team has a lot of money on it, and our defense has showed, hey, in big spots, they're going to make some big plays.
Mm-hmm.
And at least
some big stops.
Or some big stops.
Yeah, big stop, yeah.
So we haven't taken the football away enough to my liking, but we're getting better. And I know, listen, it's a good week for Grayson after a Cowboys win, because Daddy's happy. You know what I mean? So nobody can tell me it feels bad over this week, especially if we would have lost and then we had a bye week. That would have been a mess. It would have been a massacre. So, listen, you're right. The only way we can go is up from here, especially offensively. I think with guys being in the lineup a lot is going to help. Goddard coming back, being 100% after the bye. He wasn't 100% on Sunday night.
Yeah.
Jalen getting some continuity with Wentz a little bit more and more and more is only going to help both of them. What him and Travis are. So it's really just, hey, Lane's going to come back. Hey, can I get Miles Sanders back shortly? So, I mean, we've got to tread water, and we're going to have guys coming back. So I still think the sky's the limit if this football team's healthy in terms of winning a playoff game, right?
Yes.
That's all I'm talking about.
Agree.
So that's all I got on all that. Just to recap everything you guys said.
So to get into it, what we kind of staved off for about a half an hour, 28 minutes. When we talk about Wentz in the 4 interceptions, we'll start there. The first one, horrible. Second fumble, not really on him. Not a fan of the play call, the 4th and 3 call from midfield. It's nothing he can really do. The blitz came. We didn't pick it up.
I don't know about. That's the thing. Like I don't know what your guys' opinion on, and I'm not here to say anyone is wrong. I've heard different opinions. I've looked at and studied that play for a lot. I still don't know whose fault that is. Mm-hmm. Like if I'm looking at the grand scheme of things, like if you want to say it's a bunch of people's fault, that's fine. Like I can agree with that.
Oh, I'll go higher. I'll go a step higher. I mean, I'll tell you whose fault it is. If the fault is, that's on your quarterback right there. I don't have to love the play call or not, but I had guys running wide open, and I don't care.
True, yeah.
If we're talking about downfield, different story. I'm talking about guys wide open on a 4th and 3 in front of your face. That's
it was 84, right?
It was Ward and Jalen, I think.
And Jalen was on the crosser, yeah.
And Jalen, nobody was covering either one of them. I mean, they're right in front of your face, easy throws, and that keeps making me think, Pete. And Chuck said he's trying to do too much.
He's definitely playing hero ball.
I don't know, and you are 100% right. So that's the thing. Like I'm one person that I was listening to was like, I don't know why because if that 2-point conversion that Rager caught was the same play design, and if you look at Wentz and what his progressions are, totally different. when on the fourth down, his first progression was to Scott. I do not know why. And then when he's going through his progressions and when he knows that Scott is unavailable, he's covered. I'm trying to figure out, okay, his next progression, is he going to Fulgham or is he staring down the middle of the field? And if he's here's the two things I'm trying to like figure out in my head. So if he's going to Fulgham, if he's looking, his second progression is Fulgham, that's weird because you're going from the right side of the field to the left side of the field. Why are you skipping over the middle of the field?
So, yeah, and it's every play. Listen, it's every play.
Yeah, every play. So then if he's not now, if he's looking at the middle of the field for a second progression, why didn't he pull the trigger? Because he has, even though Van Der Esch came in on that blitz, he had time to get rid of it if he saw Ward wide open. So why didn't he? I don't know why. So I'm going to blame, I'll absolutely put blame on Wentz. The other thing that really I found interesting though was that Trey Thomas, we know he's amazing with his breakdowns every week. He broke down the offensive line play on that, and he said that Kelsey actually should have slid to the right instead of pull to the left on that twist. So he's saying that Kelsey should have picked up Van Der Esch on that blitz, but then also he did acknowledge that the quarterback has to know, hey, there's a free guy. When you have that with those four, and when there's empty backfield, there is no slide protection. It's man on man. You have to know who that extra guy is. So it's just, and then I just also want to address that when you get the play call in late and you're rushing to the line with 5 seconds left on the play clock, why aren't you calling a timeout, Doug? So
why not this? Why not this? Hey, if I'm going to go for it on 4th and 3, right? If I'm going for it on 4th, why don't I run the ball on 3rd and 3?
Yeah,
I'm asking for a friend at home because I don't know. I'm watching the game saying if I'm in 4 down territory, the way I get quarterback sneak like it's my job, right, on 4th and 1s. Why am I not maybe in even if I'm in the gun and it's a draw, right? Like whatever. Why am I not trying to run the football or design rollout on 3rd and 3, etc. But no, I want to drop back and throw the ball way too many times. And listen, part of the turnover problem is as a coaching staff, we're forcing him with all different parts coming in and out to do everything. And that's hurting it too, guys. Like in 2017, his completion percentage was 60%. It wasn't like 68%. I mean, the guy everything wasn't money, right? But they helped him out because they ran the football enough.
Yes, they did.
And you got and you know me, guys. I'm not Uncle Ron. I love my Madden, but at the end of the day, I got to at least be 50. I got to at least be 55, 45, 60, 40 at worst. Yeah. Right, but even if we are 55, 45 at times right now, it never feels like it, and that's the weird part. And that's on Howie Roseman never addressing the running backs as a power back, but it's not good in terms of throwing.
What bothers me is that, like for me, I never look at the ending numbers at the game because like matchups and game flow and how the game is going really to me will determine is more of a determining factor than how many times you should have run the ball. Like I can't say like, oh, we have to have a 60-40 ratio or 55-45 ratio, so I'm going to run it here. Like I don't look at that. I look at, okay, how is my offensive line pushing in the running game? What are they presenting as a defense, and how is my running back running today? So against the Cowboys, you had Boston Scott, who coming off of a good game against the Giants yet again, the line was getting pushed and he was playing well. Like Boston Scott early in the year was having issues with bouncing stuff outside. But against the Cowboys, he was much better. He was running the ball well.
So, he still did it a couple times though.
We could have ran the ball against their defensive tackles. Their defensive tackles are trash.
But listen, even not him. If there was just somebody else here to run through the tackles better, because listen, he does even Sunday night he tried to bounce a couple he shouldn't have. But overall, he had a pretty good game in terms of staying home, right? But the last thing I got on it, if there was just another guy that you trusted between the tackles, it would make the coaching for the coaches, etc., life so much easier because you don't trust Corey Clement enough because he's not good enough. And at the end of the day, This is hurting our offense.
And the biggest thing is, I saw a couple of comments where he was throwing the word when he got clobbered. The thing is, the progression wasn't there. It wasn't fast enough. He didn't progress fast enough. His progression was in the wrong area. He knew the route. He knew what was going to be there. I see a couple with the hot route, and he's throwing the ball deep. Listen, Carson is playing hero ball. There's two things that need to happen after this offseason. I hope it happens in this week. Carson needs to live within the offense, whatever that is, because there was numerous plays to where why I understand God is not 100%, but there was numerous plays where he's 15 to 20 yards down the field and he was open. He had a man beat. See, Carson had no weapons last year, no speed last year, the last 2 years. Now that he has it, he's seeing guy gets beat, and he's trying to go for the home run. Him and Peterson, for whatever reason, they're trying to get it all back. The biggest problem I have with the 4-for-3 and the 3rd-and-3, all that shit, is the fact of Doug. They have Ben DiNucci. It's 4-for-3 from midfield. Let your defense go to work. Let your defense cook.
Know the situation. Just know the situation. Yeah.
Doug has been out of touch with the situational play calling all year. He needs an OC. They need one singular voice to up the chain so he only has to hear from one guy.
Yeah.
Let all the Scangarello, let all the Prestella, let all your run game, your pass game coordinators go to one guy. You talk to that one guy. Let your coordinator worry and dilute and really get all that information from the coaches under him. So that way it's just you and your OC. This way it's working out right now. We talked about it today. It was like after the San Francisco game, going into the Pittsburgh game, we wanted to see consistency. We're seeing consistency out of the defense. For you know what I mean, Baltimore, they gave up 30. Ever since then, I mean, Pittsburgh hasn't lost a game. Should they have lost a game? Yeah. Maybe they should have. They should have lost Sunday, but they have not. They're undefeated. You can live with a loss like that. You can live with the Ravens' loss like that. But we seen that on the defense. I'm literally right now, November the 15th at 1 o'clock when we go to the Meadowlands, defense won't put up any more than 24. I'm cool with that. I'm confident in saying that, especially against Daniel Jones and what that offense is. But with our offense, it's ridiculous. I mean, I don't know what Carson is looking at. It's almost like they're coaching with extra pressure for no reason. No, who's putting this pressure on you guys? Who's putting this pressure on you, Carson, to try to get it all back at once? Who's putting this pressure on you, Peterson, to try to get it all back against Ben DiNucci and the Dallas Cowboys, who are averaging 34 points a game? 34 points a game.
Pete, does it matter? Does it matter for one play for anybody that's played sports? We all know what's happening here. Okay, you're talking about a third down, just like third down hypothetically, right? And a guy doesn't have it, and instead of just throwing it away and say, you know what, we're going to punt, but you'll make a bad throw. What I've been seeing him do is either he's holding on, I mean, it's just common sense, but he's holding on to it too long because he's waiting for that big play to open up, or it's not opening up, and he's almost in panic mode. But I've never seen, even like Brett Favre, who was a gunslinger, it was a different type of gunslinger. This gunslinger is saying, you know what, I'm never going to live to play the next play. And I don't know where that internal pressure is coming from. I would assume the whole coaching staff, week in, weeks out, like, hey, get rid of the football. Get rid of the football. 3-step, 5-step, whatever drop it is. Get rid of the football, okay? You know, in the gun, 7-step, whatever, okay? But get rid of the damn football. And what I see is that decision-making is not there. And then when it is there, right, then you see little instances where it is there. Greg Ward slant over the middle. I mean, come on. That ball's right here. I mean, I need every NFL wide receiver catches that ball. Need it caught, right? Yeah. The Jalen ball was a really good football, even though it didn't go for a touchdown. So there's good things, even with the bad, right? So as bad as he's played, he made some really big-time throws in big spots.
Oh, so hell yeah.
All you got to do is clean up a little bit, right? Like you got a little cleanup job to do. We don't expect you to be 69% throwing the football. No. We expect you to be 60%. And, dude, do we expect to play? Absolutely. Yes, you know what creates big plays? When guys fear you on your over the middle and your little stuff, right? When you can beat people all day over the middle and comeback routes, etc. Guess what opens up? Guess what opens up? The big play. Guess what? If I put it in the running back's gut and come out and it's a play action and I'm going to take a shot, but I haven't ran the football well who the hell's respecting that? So what else helps with big plays? What happened in 2017, Chuck, sir, right? Last thing. What happened in 2017? We had a run game that you had to fear enough where, hey, guess who gets open downfield? Nelson, Torrey, etc. That's what we have to get back to. You have to, for any quarterback in the National Football League, any one of them, the run game's so important to them because teams love to play action. Okay? Well, you can't play action, homeboy, if you aren't running the football enough or consistently enough.
And the thing is, what makes it so frustrating, Chuck, give me like 10 seconds.
You're good.
It's really keeping Carson within the offense. Carson he's so talented, and when that like Ike says, let the Bronco buck. He really is a fucking wild Mustang. That's really what he is. But you constantly need to let him know, like, yo, Lightning McQueen, you don't have to go balls to the wall all the time. Just relax a little. But it's not enough voices. Doug's voice, for whatever reason, he can't be with Carson all the time. And Press Taylor is not the guy to do it. If Press Taylor grows his set over the weekend, and you just got to be like, it's got to be constant reassurance to Carson. That's why I think in 2017 it came so easy, because when he wanted to make plays and the opportunity was there, he did it. But a lot of the times, remember, we had guys running open until 2017. Let's go to the Broncos game, the RPO. Alshon Jeffrey was running down the field because the play design was so good and the situation of play caller was so good. He had him for 30 yards. Nobody was around him. How many times did we see that in 2017? It's so many cumulative things that have led us to this point. But I say that to go back to what TA said. If this team gets healthy and they can find their stride, I would not put it past them not only to win a division, but to win that first round, to win that first playoff game.
You know who's the biggest importance right now? I'll tell you, and Chuck's going to love it because he's wearing his T-shirt. But it's a certain guy who talked about being an MVP candidate this year. Hasn't worked out for him because he hasn't been on the field. But hey, it's not how I start, it's how I finish. Okay? So if you come back and be healthy, because there's not much outside of him on this roster or in the running back department. I mean, we like Scott. He's a good third, essentially. Two, depending. It doesn't matter. But you just need if you had a better third, it'd be fine. But we don't. So Miles becomes so important because he does run through the tackles well, right? That's something he can do well, right? He can take a ball to the house and go 80 on somebody's ass. They're the things we desperately need as an offense. So to me, the most important piece that needs to come back out of everybody that's missing right now, more than Zach Ertz, anybody, because of our running game, is Miles Sanders. And to help our quarterback out and this offense out. So I'm really praying for a big second half when he does come back, because that will go right to Pete's point. And I know, Chuck, I know you're right with us, that this team can not only win a division, but win a home playoff game if they have that fear factor.
I completely agree. And to the point about Miles Sanders, it's when it comes to Miles, from on the ground, when it comes to the running game, he's been great. Like you can't blame him for if he's had lackluster numbers on the ground. You can't blame him because honestly, the run blocking wasn't there. Those games against the Ravens and the Steelers, the run blocking was not there.
It doesn't matter. He had big plays, so his numbers are numbers. You know what I mean?
He had big plays. Now, what I will knock him on, and it's similar to my thing with Wentz and the interceptions. Last year, he had great hands. He had, I think, 2 drops all of last year. Two drops all of last year. He was catching balls left and right with his hands away from his body down the field. So he was showing that he is a great receiver. But for some reason, now it's not all on him. There were opportunities early on in the season that Wentz missed him on with passes. I know the Bengals game was one where Miles had that stop, that slant and go route down the left sideline, and Wentz just overthrew him. But there also have been uncharacteristic drops by Miles that he's got to clean up. So Miles definitely has to clean that part of the game, because what makes Miles great is the fact that he's such a dynamic dual threat. But if you can't securely catch the ball, that takes away half of your game.
Yeah, so the important part of the NFL in 2020. 2020, back to your catch. Yo, Rob, first off, listen, honey, here's what happens when you come in late. You come in late to the party, you don't know what we're talking about. We're all talking about if this team gets fully healthy, they are capable. If Carson Wentz gets his shit together offensively in the turnover game, they are capable of winning the division and one home playoff game. Why is that crazy if they're healthy? You're talking about Lane Johnson coming. We're talking about Lane coming back, Ertz coming back, and Miles coming back. We're talking about a fully healthy roster.
Yeah.
Fully healthy.
Yep.
Why can't that? I mean, I know it's
One
crazy.
playoff game. Yeah, just one playoff game. It's not far fetched. I think with now my second point when it comes to Miles and Wentz, it ties into what I want to get into next before we start talking about the whole league in Week 8 is Doug Peterson. I know we talked about it a little bit already, but man, Peterson has to help. With one, we'll talk about Wentz first because we already talked a lot about Wentz's issues. Peterson has to start helping him out. Some of these play calls and these decisions, like you said, Pete, have been atrocious. Like, what are you doing with some of these play calls? Like, the thing that I harped on all offseason and was hoping for and haven't seen at all, you bring in Rich Scangarello, who studied under Kyle Shanahan, to have to marry that running game and passing game better, to make it look like it's seamless, to confuse and disguise what you're doing more. Because when you watch a Kyle Shanahan offense with the Niners, everything looks the same, but it isn't. Correct, Pete? Like, you have jet motion play action, and then the fullback leaks out to the right side. And then the next play, you have jet motion play action, and then you're hitting the running back on the other side. And then the next play, you have the jet action handoff to the running back. He takes it for a touchdown. Everything looks the same, but they're not the same. And that's what I wanted this year. However, we haven't gotten that. This offense does not look like there's no point. You don't see a game plan or a point that the offense is trying to drive home each game. They look like they're just a bunch. It's just a bunch of plays put together randomly, and there's no real script or agenda that they're trying to achieve. And that's bad. That's bad play calling. That's bad play calling.
It is, and it isn't, though. It is for the most part. When Doug messes up, it's just uncharacteristic shit. We talked about it against the Giants. It's 14 minutes left to go in the game. It's 14-10. You're on your 3-yard line. Kick a field goal. It's the Giants.
Yeah.
But don't make it so hard on once this is a guy who already wants to play hero ball, and you're giving him the perfect opportunity to try to be a hero. Now, he was that night, but also it could also be what Wentz's progressions and where he's going with the ball and making these plays like there's one thing to be said about 1st and 5 or 2nd and 5, and then we're taking a shot down the field, or it's a no game play on 1st down, so it's 2nd and 10, 2-yard gain on 2nd down, so it's now 3rd and 8, and the play could be there, but for whatever reason, Carson is not going that way. But with that being said, Doug can definitely make it easier on his quarterback and make it easier on his offense, because we have not seen one consistent game out of the offense whatsoever.
It's not. I totally understand that Wentz is messing up some of this, and that's what our original point is, that he's playing dumb football right now, dumb decisions. So I'm not excusing that. That's part of it. But then the other part, like, if I'm going to put blame mainly on people for the offensive struggles and issues, I'm blaming both Wentz and Peterson equally.
Yep.
Now, when it comes to the other part, like Tom, you talked about how Miles has to play a key role in this offensive success. Well, Peterson has to do his part in making sure Miles gets the touches to be a key part. Like, there are so many games where we're banging the table, like, why isn't Miles, like the Bengals game? Why isn't Miles getting the ball more?
Well, because guess what? He wasn't. To me, he wasn't fully healthy. He sort of mentioned he wasn't fully there, stamina-wise, coming back. So I think that was a part of it. You know what I mean?
That was part of it, but then it doesn't explain, like, for the Bengal game specifically, right? So he's on the field in overtime. He's not off the field. He's not on the sideline. He is on the field. The Eagles had 2 possessions near the 50. All you need is a field goal. Why are you getting pass happy? Miles was tearing up that defense It's late in the game. He's on the field. You're not resting him. So get the ball up the middle. Even if you're only getting 4 yards, those are crucial yards. So there are situations where Doug has to get Miles more involved. And if it's not even just the passing game, I mean the running game, it's also the passing game. Look at how guys like Sean Payton, look how he uses Alvin Kamara in the passing game. It's so creative. What I wouldn't kill to have Miles Sanders get a screen or two a game. What I wouldn't kill to have Miles Sanders motion out, play in the slot more, line up on the outside, run some kind of actual wide receiver route. You don't if the defense is keen, because every defensives now know that a big play for the Eagles when it comes to Miles is that wheel route.
Yep.
So if defenses are keying on it, then you going to Miles for checkdowns in the flat, swing routes, or wheel route only to get him, and those are your only ways of getting him involved in the passing game, you're not doing enough. You're not doing enough. You're not being creative enough to get him the ball in space in the passing game. You've got to be more creative. You've got to look at what Sean Payton's doing and what these coaches who use running backs, and Andy Reid, how they use running backs in the passing game, how they implement that. So
Yeah, but
you've got to do better. You've got to do better with that.
Yeah, but he has, but it's also like we would see more of a sample size of guys, if the same guys were in too. You know what I mean? Like I think we'd see more of a sample size of him getting the ball out of the backfield more because he'd be playing more. You know what I mean? Because he hasn't played enough, and there has been opportunities. And say like the one down the sideline, Carson puts on the money and he's still running, right? So or the one in the end zone where he drops it. So it's been on both guys.
Oh
right?
yeah.
But just say that them two things go right for him. Well, even with him being out, we're like, well, Doug uses them great because he's catching balls, right? And there's more opportunities that have been out there. But I think it's easy to say when he isn't playing, like we don't like. I agree with everything you're saying. They're like, hey, if you're going to be out there, use them. Like in the Cincinnati game, absolutely. If you're out there, let's get him involved. Then So my question is 3 things, guys. So either the talent, either we're overrating our talent that we have on the offensive side of the football. We're overrating our quarterback on the offensive side of the football, or we're overrating our coach on the offensive side of the football. I don't know. Because one of them three things offensively is hurting you, and I don't want to believe it's talent, right? So if we're checking all boxes, we'll say, talent's gone. We don't believe it's talent. We believe there's enough talent when they're all here, right? So then you go to quarterback. Do you believe it's your quarterback? Because to your Doug Peterson points, I think stuff's open. I truly do. Like I don't know how much he's changing at the line of scrimmage. One, because he does it enough, right? And gets into other play calls. So when you're throwing the ball 61% of the time in 2020, you're throwing the football 61% of the time is the ratio that I just Googled it real quick. Some notes. Sometimes you need a note when it comes into your argument. And the argument is, I believe he is a good play caller. I believe he's a great game manager. I believe he's a great players coach. I believe them things. What I'm having trouble believing is why he gets so stubborn on the pass like that.
That right there, that comment right there, that's the problem. We saw one before that the offense hasn't been the same since Frank Reich.
Yep.
Doug, everything that you said about Doug is true.
Yes.
When he has a voice that he trusts underneath of him.
Yeah.
I
think he needs an OC. Yeah.
Yes. The offensive system now is flawed. It's so flawed. It's hard for Doug to be consistent because there's too many fucking voices.
And guess what? How many moving pieces in and out of the lineup ball every week?
Oh, that too.
It's
that too. Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous. But what I will tell you, which is it's so glaring to me, and why I will call his ass out, is again, I'm not Mr. Run the ball all the time. 61% of the time, with all the moving pieces, is unacceptable. It's unacceptable for any football team around the National Football League. That's thinking that I'm better. That's the old Andy Reid. That's the old Andy Reid back.
Yeah.
I'll put it all on my quarterback. Listen, man.
Even when he's struggling, like That's the thing. Like, even when your quarterback is struggling, you're going to make him pass the ball a absurd amount of time, and it's not. And when the running game is doing well, you're still going to pass it that much. That's bad. That's bad decision making and play calling. And I think, like, for me to say that he needs an OC is me going back on I this offseason, go back, and I'll admit I was wrong. I was one of the people that thought that it was fine not to have an OC. I was like, Doug's going to be fine. It's his offense. You know, he has creative minds. I said it already this show. He has Rich Scangarello to help him be more creative and everything. I thought it was going to be fine. 8 games into this season, I've been dead wrong. And so maybe, like, he has to look at it himself. And, you know, we all have to be like, you know, because I agree with you. I still love it. I think Doug is an absolute leader of men. And I think overall, in his grand scheme of his tenure here with the Eagles, not specifically this year, but just in the grand scheme of things, he's a great decision maker. He has a good grasp of situations in football and when to do certain things. So I will take, just like with Carson, I will take the totality of the resume rather than what we've seen this season and have faith in that. I just think that the play calling has been head scratching this year so far. And so maybe he does. I think he needs to relegate play calling to someone else. Whether it's this season or next season.
Can I read these off real quick to you guys? Real quick? I want to read these off to you. Right? Jacksonville Jaguars throwing the ball 64% of the time. Chicago Bears about 64% as well. Dallas Cowboys 62%. Philadelphia Eagles 61%. Houston Texans 61%. New York Giants 60%. Cincinnati Bengals 60%. Tampa Bay Bucks 60%. There's one team out of all them teams
that has a winning record.
No, there's 2 that winning record because the Bears do. But one team that's really any good out of all them teams that are 60 or above. All right? And then guess who you go to? You go Seattle, 59. Okay. Well, that's Russell Wilson and Tom Brady. Let them throw all day. Okay? Detroit Lions, 58. Okay? That's what Stafford does. But then look, you know, the Jets, 58. Falcons, 58. I mean, these are bad football teams. You know? I mean, the Packers got Aaron Rodgers. They're throwing the ball 56% of the time. I mean, that's the kind of run ratio you need.
Yeah, and the craziest thing is, and we may not know it now because we're at week 8, but Doug, like you said, Doug and Carson are playing and coaching with pressure that we can't understand. There's no need, to me, there's no need for the added pressure. You're in first place in NFC East that is not, on paper, is not that good. And you had the best quarterback in the division, probably the best player overall in the division when he's right, is Carson. Why? Like, why are we doing these uncharacteristic things?
Is it that you don't trust the running backs that much? Like,
I think it's coming from up top.
You think up top saying, hey, yes, throw the ball a lot.
I think they said something to him. I think he knows that if he doesn't move forward, if Carson doesn't get a playoff win, and Carson knows, Carson has it anyway. This organization has had 1 foot in, 1 foot out on him the whole time. 1 foot in, 1 foot out. That's what the Jalen Hurts at 53 is. That's right there. That's the pressure for Carson. I can't understand it for Doug and Howie though. There's something there. What it is, not sure. But there's something there to where they just not vibing. Like, Doug doesn't do this shit like that. He doesn't do it. Like, if you think about it, in the 4 years, 5 years up to this point, this is his 5th year. The 4 years he's been here, he hasn't made bonehead plays to where maybe he has, but it's not been such a drastic chance to auto correct it the next week. You know what I mean? Like, every touchdown now, we're going for it on 2. Every first touchdown, we're going for it on 2.
Well,
it seems like every 4th and 5 from midfield where we're punting it. We don't trust the defense, and the defense arguably is the best part of this team right now. It's the reason why we have 3 wins, in my opinion. They made a stop in the San Fran game. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously Carson, okay, the Giants game, but outside of that, you know what I mean? Like, to me, there's something else going on behind the scenes.
I'll tell you what it is. He doesn't trust his running backs, right? And he's shoving it up the GM's ass. That's what he's doing. He's saying, "This is what you gave me. They'll be able to run the football consistently." So guess what? We're just going to put it all in the quarterback's hands. I totally agree with you, Pete. Where there's smoke, there's fire. There's something going on between them two. I don't think he likes the groceries that were shopped for him.
Yes.
I think that's internal too. I think that goes for Jim Schwartz as well on the defense side of the football. I don't think they let football guys in the decision-making situations, which is a crock of shit. When you can say whatever you want about Doug Peterson and Jim Schwartz, they're Super Bowl winners at what they do. Okay? So at the end of the day, they should have some say in football decision-making, draft day, etc. And the fact it doesn't seem like they do enough, it's concerning to me, and that becomes a power trip issue, and that becomes freaking dockside and khaki shit, okay? And dockside and khaki shit doesn't fly for me when we're talking about evaluating guys at the biggest level, all right? I need some football guys in on these decision-making, and who better than my defensive coordinator almost begging for a linebacker. Yep. They don't take one in the first round, fine, but then they don't take one in the second round either. And then you put Hurts on the offensive side. So now your quarterback's pissed off. You would think. So I agree with everything you said. I think it started on draft night when we were all upset, and it's just been getting a little bit worse as we've gone on here, guys. So that's where I stand on it. I think it's just, I think it's been aging poorly since draft night.
Go ahead, Chucks.
I don't think I don't know. Maybe I misunderstood your point earlier. I have a hard time still believing that the higher ups in this organization aren't all in on Wentz.
But hold on, because it's not higher ups. There's one higher up. That's the fucking problem.
Okay.
It's one dude. It's the big boss at the end of Donkey Kong. When you get up to the next level, it's Bison. Howie is Bison.
We're talking about Howie. We're talking about Howie.
Yes.
Right? So I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I don't know for sure what's going on, and regardless of what we think is going on, here's the reality. Here's the truth. Carson's not going anywhere for 2 seasons. He is not moving. He is not getting traded. He is not getting cut or released. He is the quarterback for at least this season and next season, at the very least. That is the
that was the question I was going to ask you. When you said 2, did you mean 2 after this year or this year and next year? I was curious about that.
This season and next season.
I believe it because his contract's tradable. After that, his contract becomes team friendly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he's not going anywhere anytime soon. Now, soon is relative. If you want to say, off-season 20 after 2021 is soon, okay, fine. But my point is, he's the quarterback for this season and next season at the very least. Okay, at the very least. So he's not going anywhere. That's the truth. Now, what has triggered Howie, the nerd, to be half out on Wentz so he gave Wentz that contract. Wentz won the division with practice squad players, and then got cheap shotted by Jadeveon Clowney, and that made him exit the playoff game. So you're telling me that the cheap shot to Wentz's head was what got Howie to bail out? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Mine's simple. It goes backwards too. We have to go back in time a little bit for this. We have to go back in time on not drafting Russell Wilson, right? We got to go back in time and remember that this dude had a big infatuation with Kyler Murray as well. There's something about the miss of Russell Wilson that sort of sat with Howie Roseman for a long time throughout this organization. And I think
Michael Kendricks then.
Yep, he sees what he's done over there for years. Now, different guys, right? But in terms of Howie, he sees what Russell Wilson's done for years, and he thinks this could be his next Russell Wilson. I'm telling you, that's what he thinks. So is he all out on Wentz? No, not yet.
Yeah.
But he's gonna. But listen, you know the binoculars, right? So hold on. You know this guy right here, right? Everybody knows him. I'll bring him up. Give me 1 second here. I'll bring him up. Everybody knows this guy. This guy's gonna be at all practices throughout the next 2 years. with the freaking binoculars, eyeing up everything Jalen Hurts does on the football field, okay? Because at the end of the day, he thinks he can be that guy. Now, it might be 3 years from now, but he truly believes that he got himself his Russell Wilson air quote player. And listen, I want any Eagle to do good, but again, I'm not in the compare business. Russell Wilson's going to be a Hall of Famer. Talk to me when the guy, if you think that's who he's going to be, listen, brother, and you trade Wentz, you better be right. Because if you're not, that becomes the biggest fireable offense for any GM in any sport, especially football, if you get rid of your quarterbacks for a guy who can't play.
Here's what I'll say before we move on past, and get into week 8 before we close out. So when it comes to Jalen Hurts, and I've been saying this, I haven't been on the show, so I haven't had a chance to say this on the show. All right. If any GM really thinks that Jalen Hurts can be a team's next Russell Wilson or Kyler Murray, they're not paying attention or they're not scouting enough. Are the intangibles comparable? Sure. I think we all agreed that when it comes to Hurts, the person and the leader, we're all in. We all think that Hurts is a great leader, hard worker, team guy, and everything like that. I think we all agree on that from what I remember. But if I'm going to break down his game, Jalen Hurts, even though he has shown improvement in terms of accuracy and ball placement,
right,
he does not have the arm of a Russell Wilson or a Kyler Murray or a Carson Wentz. That one pass he threw to, was it Fulgham on the sideline against the Cowboys?
It took forever to get there.
You see how long it took that ball to travel? There was no zip on that ball. He does not have the arm. Like, Wilson is arguably one of the best deep throwers we've ever seen in the game. And we are moving we're constructing this roster at wideout and of speed, right? Like downfield threat, aggressiveness. Do we really think that Jalen Hurts can throw downfield?
That's what he thinks. He's trying to mimic Seattle and he's trying to mimic Kansas City. He's trying to mimic those two things. And he's hoping that he got a steal in the second round, and that's the guy that they never drafted years ago. And that's where he stands on it. And he's trying to outthink everybody.
Yeah, and for that, I'm not saying you're wrong. I agree. And if that's the case, he did a horrible job scouting or evaluating Jalen Hurts, because I'm not saying Jalen Hurts can't be good,
right,
but if I'm looking at his arm, he is never going to be a top tier talent. Right. Like he can be a good quarterback, maybe around like a top 10, top 15 quarterback. And maybe I'm wrong. I'm not saying like I'm always perfect in my evaluations. You guys know that. I admit I'm wrong, but I will say that if I'm looking at Jalen Hurts, his ceiling is as a good quarterback, but he does not have that arm to sling it the way that Wilson, Wentz, or Kyler do.
Let's talk about Kyler and Russell. Kyler and Russell are baseball guys. They're drafted to play baseball.
Yeah, talk about it all the time.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts isn't a baseball guy to me. At least I don't know of. I mean, I'm not saying he never played, but maybe he did. But like these guys were drafted to play baseball. These are baseball arms that are little dudes.
Yes.
Russell Wilson drops dimes and throws balls that you're like,
yes.
Did he just make that throw? Because he puts his hand in the cookie jar. You know what I mean? Like he knows how to throw a baseball well. It translates to him throwing a football well. The same thing with Mahomes. Look at these guys that are accuracy junkies.
Yes.
Look at accuracy junkies. Look at all the accuracy junkies are baseball guys. That's all I got to say.
It's
not see like with their arm, like people always say, people are always like debating what's more important, power, arm strength or accuracy. It's a combination of both. Like you have to have a good balance of both. And those guys with arm talent like Kyler and Wilson and Mahomes, they have zip and they have that accuracy. Like Kyler is struggling a little bit in the intermediate levels of the field, but he's going to figure it out. He has too good of an arm not to. So they have arm. Like if you're going to draft someone like that, it's not good. Like it Hurts isn't it. Like I hope people don't take this out of proportion. I'm just talking about like stylistically. I'm not talking about how good they'll be. But if you're going to talk about a QB with a similar play style in terms of he has above average arm strength but can run, good intangibles. Jalen Hurts is, to me, the comparison for his play style is Tyrod Taylor, who doesn't have a huge arm but can run. Like that's his comp in terms of play style. So he doesn't have a big enough arm for me to put stock into and say he's my QB of the future. He's my next Russell Wilson. He's not. He doesn't have the arm. I don't know how many times I got to say it. And so if we're going to have faith or like say that Howie thinks that Hurts is going to be the next Wilson, I have really big concerns about that.
It becomes a gadget offense quickly, Pete. That's all I got. It becomes a gadget offense. It becomes a gadget quarterback, right? And you're all gadgets. So you're smoke and mirrors. So you're praying that the RPO works, where you get a guy wide open 30 yards down the field running for a touchdown. It becomes all smoke and mirrors. That dude will be dead in 3 years trying to run around like Lamar Jackson. He doesn't run around like Lamar Jackson. He'll be dead at this level. Okay?
Yes.
That ain't going to fly. So the whole thing just doesn't smell right, feel right, or any of that from the night that we all sat here and witnessed that pick. So that's all I got on it. I like the kids like you guys do. I want them to be successful. If it's here, so be it. Whatever. But I don't feel it. Right? That's all.
Yeah.
No, so all I was going to say is, and I don't know how many supporters Howie has left. I mean, he lost me a couple years ago. But you just look at the last 2 or 3 years, our second-round picks on this team have been useless. Not contributed. And it's very easy. I think
second round picks?
Yeah, our second round picks.
Miles and Goddard.
Okay, besides Miles, I'm talking about
Goddard.
JJ.
Goddard was second round.
The last 2 years.
Yeah, so we got JJ. I mean, you got Miles, but I'm talking. So you got. I'm just saying, JJ, DK. That's it.
Well, that's obvious. Like,
and then
but then you're a home run, Pete. Then you're DK, Goddard, Miles. Oh my God. You know what I mean? Like,
DK is T.O. Light, man. That's who he is. DK is T.O. Light. So
you could have drafted Jalen Hurts. Hold on. Look, you're gonna keep doing this to me now. You could have drafted Jalen Hurts in round 2 if you would have had Goddard, Miles, and DK.
Yes.
You could have drafted Jalen Hurts and said, we're just gonna have a little fun later on. This pick don't matter. All we do is hit on second rounders anyway. And we all been like, okay. But the fact that JJ's so atrocious, it shines a big spotlight into this pick, to your point, Pete. That's all.
It's a gaping wound into the fact that we don't have DK. I mean, you look at Mark Ingram didn't play against the Steelers Sunday. They still had Gus Edwards and guess what? J.K. Dobbins had 18 carries for over 100 yards. It's good to have depth. I get it. Jalen Hurts, I saw one. Anthony Adis said in 4 years he'll be. You don't do that with second round picks. That's neither here nor there. My point is saying this: Jeff Lurie at the end of the year. Ask yourself, Jeff, who's more important to this team? Doug and Carson and Jim, or Howie?
Howie. I mean, Howie has to go. Doug and Carson are more important.
That's
Howie has to go. Sorry,
right.
I reversed it.
If you ask Jeffrey Lurie that, Don Smolenski that, you could poll 100 Eagles fans. Doug and Carson or Howie. If you get more than 5 choosing Howie over his track record, then they need to get a clue.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah,
in the words of Tia, they need to get a clue.
With Howie, I want him to, like, I would be okay with him, like perfectly okay, if he stayed in as part of the organization, but just handled finances, and then relegated personnel decision making to someone else. You know what I mean? I don't know. Now, I don't know if that's a workable power structure. Maybe it's not. So if it's not, then fine. I'm wrong. But even if he wants to keep Howie on to work salary cap and finances, and then have someone else, like, I would give my left nut for Louis Riddick to be our GM or
yes.
Like, I would give my left nut for that. Like, take it. But like if you had Louis and then Howie as the guys, I would be 10 times more confident in this.
But can we really say Howie's still good with the contracts because of the situation we're about to be in?
I think that Howie has shown overall to be good enough. Has he had blunders? Yes. But I think that the main thing is he can't keep restructuring and pushing dead cap for all these older players. That's the thing. And maybe I want to give faith that he knows that. He can't keep restructuring because that money has to be paid out eventually. And with this COVID thing, he doesn't have the luxury of carrying over and then using that money for next year as much as he did before, because that cap is going to be less next year. So I hope he realizes that. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that side. But, I agree with you, Howie. I really hope that the emergence of Fulgham has not saved Howie's job. I hope that is not the case. I love the fact that we hit a diamond in the rough, and luckily we have a potential starting wideout, in Fulgham. That's great, but that does not make up for all the mishaps that Howie has had. That's Howie being lucky. Okay, that's Howie being lucky, and fortunate for that. But he cannot. I really hope Fulgham doesn't mean that Howie keeps his job. I hope that Laurie at the end of the season, if there's one personnel change that's going to be made, is that Howie gets stripped of personnel decision.
I want Howie needs to go. And I think, to be honest, you're in that relationship, and it's like, you need to make a change, and maybe we need to downgrade somebody and then bring them back. But at this point, you need to walk away from someone, not so much for them, but for you. Because the longer Howie stays and he's continuing to do things like this, and we can continue to see players that were on the board and available running around and not only being arguably the top 5 in the league, but I mean, there's people saying right now that DK is the best wide receiver in the game. He's the most unstoppable wide receiver in the game because he can do it all.
He's an elite tier now.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So when you see that at this point, like Jeff, as long as you keep your hip tied to this dude, it's bringing you down. Look at what the Sixers just did. It took them to do everything in the world to get rid of Scott O'Neal, Alex Rucker, and they brought in Doc in an instant, in less than 6 weeks. Brought in Doc, brought in Daryl Morey. Instant credibility. You see what I'm saying? Instant credibility. That's where this is going to get to a point where Howie can't win these trades anymore. The other GMs in the league, nah. You may have fleeced us before. You're not doing it now. You have to give up some assets, and guess what? We don't have any assets to give up. There is nothing in the cupboard that we can get. And when we did have something, because I truly believe that Ertz may have been a trade piece, he got hurt.
Yeah.
You know why you get hurt in football? It's because when you don't play 100% and you go balls to the wall, you increase your chances to get hurt. And we can all sit here and say, maybe not with 100% certainty, but we can definitely give it more than the 50% chance that Ertz wasn't giving us his best on the field.
50?
I'm just saying.
Hey, I'll book my entire reputation in doing what we do here. I'll book my entire reputation, whatever that may be. I don't know what that is, but I'll book my entire reputation on the fact that dude flat out quit on the football field, flat out quit on his teammates, and was up in his head and how he's living rent free up there on him. Absolutely.
I think the contract was a huge factor in that. I think he's either frustration or worry about getting hurt, which he ended up getting hurt. Like that, the whole contract situation. I believe deep down his intentions are good. I think he's still a good guy, but I think the stress and frustrations of the contract situation got to him, and then the frustrations of hey, I'm not getting the ball. Goddard is starting to really play well, and all of that weighed on him, and then now he's not the same mentally, and it's showing.
It's a mental sport, man. I mean, and we saw it with Nelson Aguilar. We've seen it with other guys. This sport is it's like any other sport. The mental side means way more than sometimes your physical abilities.
Yeah.
Yep. And when you get up in the kitchen with stuff and you can't get out of it, this is what you see. It's a shame because, listen, the guys have been a great player here. Me and Pete would have traded him about a year ago, but that's irrelevant. But the fact of the matter is, he didn't deserve this kind of treatment either. All right, and how we did this to him the year after he was pretty much considered Super Bowl MVP right, or B, right, and he goes as his replacement the next year. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's got to be Uncle Loyalty here. I'm just saying that you can see how their feelings were probably ruffled that day, and have continued to now not pretty much not talking to him.
Yeah. I agree.
Anything
else?
No, I'm gonna go get. I'm gonna go do some cake with Len. So
okay.
Happy birthday!
Tell
him we said happy birthday.
We'll do.
Happy birthday.
We'll do.
All right, big guy. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Later, boys.
Always.
Peace.
Later. Love you.
Love you.
So, Pete, anything else in regards to the first half of the season for the Eagles? Any surprises? Any other things you want to touch on before we get to the NFL?
It's really the uncharacteristic inconsistency from Wentz, because I mean, you look at the last 4 games. The Giants game, he didn't play great, but he had great stretches. But I mean, there was those stretches between really the Bengals game, 49ers, Steelers, and the Ravens. It's like, okay, these games ain't on you. You know what I mean? Like these games weren't on you, and it's just that. It's amazing how, yes, we'll take an ugly win. We'll take an ugly win more than a pretty loss. But that win on Sunday has a lot of people thinking like can we do this or not?
Here's my thing on Wentz. I think that I still lean on the side of I am optimistic and very hopeful that he's going to turn it around. I think that this is a weird season, and so overall in his career he hasn't been this bad, and so like I said in the beginning of the show, I believe the interceptions will regress to the mean, and I'm going to bank on that. I think that if these struggles continue for the whole year, though, if I'm wrong, then this offseason he has got to be put on the hot seat. Like I said, he's not going anywhere for this year and next year. He's not. But if he plays like he is this whole year, then this offseason, you got to sit him down and be like, you got 1 year. You've got this season to prove to us that 2020 was an aberration, that this is not who you are, and you got to prove to us that you are the guy we invested in. Because if he doesn't, then there is an out. It's still an expensive out.
Yeah.
The dead cap, I think, is like 16 or something like
That's
that.
not too bad.
But I mean, it's still something. Is what I'm saying. It's not like it's like $5 million in dead cap. It's still something. It's still a chunk, but it's not enough to the point where if they really want to move on, they won't. You know. So next, I'm taking it little by little. I still have hope in Wentz, and I'm not going to overreact to a blip and something that's not been a trend for his whole career. But he's got to turn it around, and for him to turn around, Doug is responsible too. He's got to play his part. The team has to stay healthy, and they've got to all be in this together. It's not just Wentz. It's everyone. Health and Peterson has to play a part in helping turn this offense around. I think Jim Schwartz, and I did touch on this earlier, but Jim Schwartz, I think that the defense has played well because of the talent more so than the scheme. I think that the talent rose to the occasion against the Cowboys, but there were things in that game that you still scratch your head on that shouldn't have happened, but Schwartz let it happen. When you're giving cushion for you're still giving 5-10 yards of cushion when it's 3rd and 3 to Ben DiNucci, that's a problem. But that's something else we'll get into later on. I think I am still hopeful, but we'll get into more predictions and expectations for the second half next week when we have Chrome. Hopefully, we have Chrome, but we'll get into that next week. But we've got a few minutes left. Let's get into Week 8 around the NFL trade deadline and everything. I want to talk about. Did you watch the Ravens Steelers game?
Yes.
Okay. I want to get your reaction to that because I try not to overreact to how a player performs at the beginning of the year. And, I like to wait now because, like, a lot of times, especially in week 1, like, we overreact to a bunch of stuff and then, things don't play out that way. But I wanted to wait to this point to talk about this. Lamar Jackson is struggling.
Yes.
And I'm not saying this because I want him to. I'm a Lamar Jackson fan. Like I said in that draft class, he has the highest ceiling out of any QB, including Josh Allen. So I'm a Lamar Jackson believer, but I think I'm fair in saying that he is struggling as a passer. And there's now been, I think I looked it up, and there have been 3 or 4 in the past 5 years. 3 or 4 of the MVPs have struggled the following year.
Yeah.
You've got Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, Carson. You can include Carson Wentz, even though I did initially. You can include him. How he regressed a little bit. I think I'm missing one more person, and then now Lamar Jackson. He doesn't look. He was never the most accurate passer, but it's worse this year than it was last year. Last year he had
with more weapons too.
With more, yeah. So now they lost Ronnie Stanley for the year.
Yep.
Huge loss.
Yeah.
I don't know because they were one of my Super Bowl contenders at the beginning of the year. If Lamar Jackson doesn't fix this, if he doesn't get better and more accurate as a passer, I don't know how far they can make it. Like they might be. They could be a one and done team in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's far fetched. I think Lamar Jackson's struggles are a real concern. Not having Stanley there, and the O-line deserves blame too because in pass protection they haven't been great.
Well, they're not built to pass protect. They're built to run protect.
They're built to run. So I want to get your outlook on the Ravens and other reaction to. Do you think the Steelers are legit? They're the only undefeated team left in the league. Are they legit contenders to beat out the Chiefs? And are they really like one of the best teams in the?
They play the Chiefs this year
one of
too,
the best teams in the league, but are they? Do you consider them legit threats to the Chiefs?
Yeah. So I think the Steelers and Chiefs play each other this year at some point. I think the AFC West plays the AFC North, if I'm not mistaken. I hope they do. If they don't, but Lamar Jackson is the Achilles heel of the Baltimore Ravens right now. He can be the reason why they go one and done because the team itself outplayed Pittsburgh on Sunday. But you can't win a game when your quarterback is doing that. And you can't do it when you can do it against a more average to lesser than average team. But when you get an above average to an elite team, you can't do that. And Pittsburgh did not. That was probably Pittsburgh's worst game all year. That was probably the Steelers' worst game all year. And the Steelers are legit because they can beat you in numerous ways. They can beat you by running the ball. They can beat you by throwing the ball. They can beat you with defensive being. And they showed that they can beat a really good team, but being off, and just not being 100% and not clicking on all cylinders, and they can win that game. So, I mean, you really think about it. Man. It sucks for Lamar though. It sucks for Lamar. I think he's taking a step back too as well. I mean. I look at someone like I'll put it like this right now, and this is something that me and you harp on to just look at the league overall. I think we were all so far up to this point wrong about Justin Herbert. He's surprising me a lot. Joe Burrow is an absolute pimp. To steal Uncle Sweep's words, if Joe Burrow was on the New Orleans Saints, they're winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. If Joe Burrow was on the New Orleans Saints, they're winning the Super Bowl. I'm really even through 9 weeks. This is week 9. Even through the first 8 weeks of the season, I still don't know because I'm seeing teams that were playing bad in weeks 2 and 3 that have now started to find their rhythm and start to play good. It's not like we sit here and we laugh. Atlanta was 1-5. Look at them now. Like if they can get on a roll, they're in a tough division. But you look at it. We thought Carolina was legit. Carolina's starting to fall off. You know what I mean?
I like Carolina though. Like I think they're just a young team that's learning. I am very hopeful with I really like what they're building. And to touch on we were talking about draft misses. To me, what hurts the most is not having Jeremy Chin. You know how much I loved him, man. Hurts over Chin. I know J-Jaw over DK is an egregious move. I get it, and I'm not saying that Jeremy Chin is a better player than DK, but personally, just for me, I had a draft crush on Jeremy Chin. He was one of my guys that I wanted so bad, and to know that we passed on him for Hurts really isn't going to sit well with me at all for a long time. So he's balling out there, but I like what your point overall when it comes to NFC South. I think that I want to see. I know Ridley got hurt, but Atlanta, I don't know. I don't have much faith in them. I think the Panthers are going to be feisty all year. I think they're going to.
I think they're going to play team stuff, but like you said, they're young. They have to learn how to win. I mean, even with everything we talked about to this point, I still don't see anybody beat the Chiefs. It's too much for you to stop. At some point, you're going to let your guard down, and now they got your boy Edwards-Helaire, and now they got Lev Bell. I mean,
talk about a duo, man.
And the defense. Listen, man, the defense. It's not a pushover defense. I mean, they got players on the defense, and they play tough. And Spags doesn't give the way his system is. He just doesn't give away points like that. It's very rarely that they just have a breakdown.
Spagnuolo has he has something that no other defensive coordinator does. He has the luxury to know, hey, I can be aggressive all I want.
Yes.
Because I know that my offense is going to put 30 points up on you. So you're going to have to score 30 points on me. So I'm going to attack you. So he has that luxury, and it's working. It's absolutely working. One more point about the Steelers before we touch on a few more things and then head out. We talk about wide receivers in this class, and this class was stacked. We're seeing it. Rookie wide receivers are playing well all around the league. I do owe an apology to one guy that I didn't think was going to be good. I thought he was going to be a tight end, and that's Chase Claypool. So I apologize. The second that the Steelers took him, I was like, crap, I'm wrong on Claypool, aren't I? If they see something in him, then that means he's going to be legit. And he looks amazing out there. And I didn't get a chance to say it after the Eagles game because I wasn't on, but I'm going to say it now. I was dead wrong on him, and he's special. He's special. Yeah. And then another one I was a little wrong on too was T. Higgins. I didn't think he was going to be this good. Right. I still don't think he's a star. He has potential to be a star wide receiver, but he's definitely already shown to be a starting caliber wide receiver who's really.
And look who he's with. I mean, but it's also who he's with.
Yes.
Look who's
Burrow trusts him. Him.
Yeah. It's
and it's funny because they played against each other in the national championship. Now they're thrown to him, so it's really really interesting. I think Brodo had a question for us, so you coming on, Brodo? Are you still there? He said he had. I don't know. He'll jump on in a second, but other games. Let's see. Were there any other games that you wanted to touch on real quick? There's Rams Dolphins. I mean,
Tua didn't have to do much.
What?
So Tua didn't have to do much. I think Flores may be low key, depending on how the result is. If the Miami Dolphins win the AFC East, you may make an argument for Coach of the Year because they're not really doing it with any studs on offense. I mean, Myles Gaskin. I mean, Devontae Parker's been very quiet. I mean,
he's been playing well. He's been playing well.
You got all three levels. Yeah. I mean, they won that game against the Rams, and I wish I would have had the hindsight to take a look now and put money on it because it is the same defense that shut him down in the Super Bowl. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah,
You know, I wasn't even thinking about that.
I think Tua will be okay. He's going to take it, but I do think other people are like, oh, it's a bad move to put him in. I think it was the right move. You have to know what you have in Tua, and he's the future. We all
Especially
know.
like you said, with the picks, they got to.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. What's up, Roto?
Okay, you guys got me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Pete, you brought up a couple minutes ago the whole thing with Burrow and Herbert, right? And I agree with you. I completely agree with you. But I want to put something to the test here, okay? If Joe Burrow, and I'll do the same thing for Justin Herbert.
Oh, by the way, before
Yes.
you ask the question,
Uh-huh.
Herbert was another one I was dead wrong about. I didn't.
Oh,
think it was
same. I slept on him.
Oh my God! Like he's been so good. So I owe an apology to him. It's so fun to watch him play with the Chargers. So he's awesome. But go ahead.
I was saying this guy was going to be like a Kirk Cousins game manager. Like, you know what I'm saying? I thought like his ceiling was so low. This guy's like Patrick Mahomes light. It's ridiculous. So my question to you guys in the fam at home is this: if Justin Herbert was the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, how many wins would they have right now?
At least one more. At least one more. Because I think Doug would coach different. He would coach and protect. He would protect Herbert a little bit more.
I'd probably say two. I'd probably say two. I think that Bengals game would have been a win.
Okay.
And then I think it's a toss-up between either one of the Steelers and Ravens games, I think would be another win. I think I'm and this is all hypothetical, so
of course,
I could be wrong, but I think Herbert, if you had thrown him in week 1 against the Redskins, I still think he would have folded a little bit. With that being week 1 of the NFL season, you get what I mean? So I'm still gonna put that as a loss. But I think either one of the Steelers-Ravens games, and then I think we win the Bengals game.
And my same question for that, but instead of Herbert, it's Burrow.
I think it's the same.
For me, I'll go up to 2.
Okay.
Maybe 3.
Okay.
I just think Burrow is he's showing you he has it. When we talk accuracy, speed, and decision making. Elusive just enough. Now it's a combination of different things because this is the first time in the league that they're seeing these guys.
Yep.
And I would say maybe Burrow is more beneficial from an offensive system more than Anthony Lynn over Herbert. But both of them, man, it's just
The reason why I love Burrow so much is because I think he's proof that, and we talked about it earlier, like his mental aspect of his game is like the intangibles, man. Like he's so smart, he's so poised, and he just knows what to do.
Yeah.
And it's funny because this offseason, like in different groups and online on Twitter, people are like, "Oh, he's gonna be a bust. He's only good because LSU is good." No, like he ran that offense masterfully. You don't have arguably the greatest QB season in college football history if you're nobody. Like he was so smart, and he has physical talent. He has an arm, but because the arm, he wasn't the fastest guy, or his arm wasn't like rare like Mahomes. You had guys saying, "Oh, he's not going to be anything." No, like you have to understand the mental aspect of QB play. Right. And know how poised he is and how he executes an offense. We talk about Wentz, his turnovers because he's making dumb decisions. Well, Burrow's not making dumb decisions.
He won't do
He's not. He's reading progressions perfectly. Well, not perfectly, but he's reading the progressions at a high level, and he's understanding schemes and everything. And that's a huge part of playing quarterback. Because that's what makes him so special. He's going to be really good for a long time.
And you get, I think, don't you this week? Miami is playing. Did they play the Chargers this week?
I can check. I have the schedule. I think so. You talking about
they're
Miami?
playing, no, they're playing the Cardinals. I'm sorry. The Chargers are playing the Raiders. But no, so
Yes.
I think there's so much pressure now on Tua because of what these other guys have already done. But I also think Tua may be in the best position head coach wise. I mean, I'm a firm believer in Brian Flores is probably the best.
Yeah.
New England underling to come out and be a head coach.
I think there's a chance Tua will like, I don't want to guarantee anything, but I think there's a chance Tua will be fine, and start to play better as the season goes on. So, we'll see. Go ahead.
This is going to answer Matt Spillane's question right now about deadline trains.
Yes.
Until the NFL, for whatever reason, I don't know why they don't do this. Until they get a cap situation like compared to the NBA and MLB to where money moves with the player and there's no dead cap hit or they cap it at a certain number, I really don't think you're going to see an action like that. Because trust me, if there was ways that maybe, so not so much NBA is a little bit different because they take on expiring contracts or things of that nature, but if it was just MLB to where you can just take on the money, you can split salary here or there, I think you would see a lot more trades. I mean, we know.
Can't you do that?
No.
I thought you can do that in NFL.
So the only way you like for Carson's instance, so the only way that they may be interested, may even consider trading him within the next 2 years, when it's not a team friendly deal, is the only way they can get out from underneath of that is he gets traded, and I believe he signs a new deal. Like I think in the NFL, you have to sign a new deal. If you stay on, like even in MLB, if you stay on that deal that you're on, your salary then goes to that player, to the new team. Where here in the NFL, it's almost like it's double. Like, why are you penalizing me for making a business decision? Moving on
I thought I could be wrong, and we'll talk about it some other show because it's probably a lengthy conversation. But I thought that it really was dependent on each contract. I thought that certain contracts are structured with the dead cap where the team that's trading them does have to take on. But also if you are trading a player, there's still a cap hit that the team that you're going to takes on that still takes that cap hit. You know what I mean? I feel like from what I've seen, and again I could be wrong because contracts in NFL are so complicated, but I feel like it depends on the specific contract and how it's structured, and how they want to structure the dead cap and the guaranteed money with each player. But I thought I have seen examples where a player that gets traded, they're that team that gets them, still, now they have to take on that cap hit.
Well, they do. They do, but the team that they were originally on still takes a cap hit as well. That's the stupid part about it. I can see if it was a progressive cap hit, like a cap hit to where, okay, this is what your part of the cap is until that person got traded. But like we sit here saying, like, if you don't think if the Eagles could really trade Carson Wentz, or if they truly believed in Jalen Hurts and they could trade any NFL team, if they truly believe that they could move on from a player and not be responsible financially,
they would do it.
They would do it. They would do it.
Yeah. All right, man. Anything else you want to touch on before we head out?
But Aaron Rodgers is a freaking beast. He just hit Montavious Valdez for like an 80-yard touchdown.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's not even fair. The Niners don't have their top 3 wide receivers. They don't have George Kittle, and they're playing with their backup quarterback. And this is not going to be a fair game. So, I mean, I'm not surprised. But hey, here's what it is. All right, guys. Well, guys, I say guys. Well, I'm talking to Brodo too. He's in the background, but it was good to be back. I am so glad to be back. I will be back every week again. Some weeks though, I might be on for a little bit. Sometimes for extended. It all depends on how little Grayson Westbrook decides to act up each night. But it is good to be back, and I'll be on every week for the rest of the season. So I'm glad to be back. Glad to be talking football with you guys again. I missed you. All the listeners, all the followers, I've missed you all too. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in and listening to us rant and rave and talk some football. And hopefully next week we'll have Chrome back, and we'll continue. We'll do a preview of the second half of the Eagles season. But the show today was brought to you by our sponsors, Paul Vidal of Specialized Physical Therapy LLC, and by MBuck Services, gutter cleaning, Mention A2D to get 20% off at mboxservices.com. And then our poll question was sponsored by Philly Drinkers, phillydrinkers.com. Make sure you catch the full lineup of A2D shows. Every night we've got a show. Almost every night we've got a show. So always tune in. We've got great guys coming up. We've got tonight in a few minutes, we've got the Hockey Happy Hour guys. They're phenomenal, so tune in. Remember, we are on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Twitch, all over the internet. So always follow and rate us on Apple Podcasts too. That helps. And guys, enjoy the rest of Thursday Night Football. Enjoy watching the Packers blow out the Niners.
Yes.
And enjoy the rest of the Week 9 games. Stay safe, and God bless. We will see you next week. Later.
Pennsylvania, finish your polls. Finish your poll count, please.